Okay, so um, my presentation for this will be slightly not ideal because I have the hiccups, but anyways, let's get into it. Um, all right. The meeting I attended was LLM observability and tracing evolutions and real-time insights, and it was a fireside chat style. There were there well there were two people, John, I can't pronounce his last name, but he was the host, and then Sage was the person who was doing a decent amount of the speaking as well. But this was on Wednesday, March 5th, and it was in the middle of the day. I remember that. It was really just showing kind of how to use their tools and a lot of that. And then it was also explaining as to why you might want to do that. Yeah, and then there's the link for that. And then just a little bit about both of them. There was a lot more about Sage that they talked about and not as much about John. And it was really interesting where um, they worked at quite a few startups, and then now Sage does this. And then John is the head of DevRel at Arizi. Um, so yeah, the meeting, like I said earlier, was really um, it felt like just an advertisement, but the event was focusing on the importance of LM observability, and some of those aspects were tracking log metrics and the behavior of the LLMs. One thing that I wrote down right here that's obvious was that it's open source, which is always really nice. So you're able to do your own adaptation of this kind of. Um, yeah. And then I met this guy named Brian Laverne, and me and him were talking about like the CS market, job market, because as I'm sure you might have heard, it's a little bit difficult to get a job at the moment, just because of like the job bubble and all of that. But he also talked to me about fundraising for startups. I think he was able to fundraise like 500,000 for his startup. So he was telling me a little bit about that. Um, and then he was really interesting to talk to, but it was after the meeting. Just the meeting was really focused more on their tools, and me and him talked after. But he worked at like what does it say here? Pixar, Apple, IBM, and there were quite a few places. Not Google, but still a lot of really high-end places. And um, yeah. So for the what I thought slide, it really just felt like they were trying to show you why their tools were the best, which there's nothing wrong with that. Just have gone to quite a few meetings in the past where all they're doing is just trying to show you some uh, new tools, and they give you a few free tokens, and then it's like, yeah, now you have to pay for it. So I'm just a little bit not what I was hoping for, and the networking aspects weren't as great. Um, yeah. Um, I attended the Google Developer Group Intro to JavaScript and React.js. This was interesting. It was a little bit fast paced, and I was on a train at the moment, but it was interesting nonetheless. I know a lot of big companies use React.js. So it was some useful information for sure, but I definitely think it would be better if I had more background in JavaScript. This was what I found on Stack Overflow, and it was definitely interesting because I've worked a little bit with machine learning in the past, and I would say that it's a passion of mine. So it was interesting to see how they were tackling like a cloudy background and background noise and stuff like that. And then this was another thing where I personally haven't changed the RGB to HSV, and then just filtering out like red. I haven't needed to, but it was an interesting tool using OpenCV. So I think I might try it in another application and see if it produces better results as opposed to some of the other methods I've done in the past. And then this was my GitHub thing that I did somewhat recently. Um, and in reality, GitHub to me, as I know it, is basically where you're just pushing and pulling um, in your local system, pushing it up to GitHub and pulling it down. If you've done something else on another computer, just trying to keep everything up to date. Otherwise, you will run into an error, which I have in the past, and it's a little bit difficult to get it set back on track. Um, and it's really nice. I've used it professionally for quite a while. And I would say that if you have not, well, then again, if I wasn't using this before this meeting, I think I'd hopefully consider it now. Yeah. And then the ChatGPT part was interesting because I just asked it based off of the first image that I showed you for the Stack Overflow part. I asked, what would you deduce from this and what would you do? And it was actually really, it was really in depth, the response. So almost wonder if that section of Stack Overflow was a part of its training data to where it already kind of knew, but it did give a very um, good answer, I think, at least, or at least like not a bad answer. So I thought that was interesting. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.